Alrighty everyone, it is already the end of June of 2024, and so far it's not looking good at all for the Walt Disney Company and many of its divisions over there that have been going through various problems for multiple reasons, all because of Bob Iger's, of course, lack of leadership skills and his deliberate agenda, and all of the cost-cutting measures that have been applied to many different projects catered to divisions like Pixar, as well as Lucasfilm, Marvel Studios, and the list goes on and on. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So regarding Snow White 2025, we know that there have been multiple failed test screenings to this very day that led the Disney executives to come to a point where reshoots are now officially moving forward and will actually happen in just a short number of months. It's going to cost Disney tens of millions of dollars more to reshoot a lot of significant scenes in both the first and third acts of this movie, as well as a handful in the middle point. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger and what kind of damage control he's now running into when it comes to Snow White 2025, the live-action remake, by the way, that Bob Iger confirmed months ago that would break away from source material, that would break away from the 1937 story that Rachel Zegler, went on and on about. Now, what's interesting about this, of course, has a lot to do with Bob Iger defending Snow White 2025 to no end, in a desperate move to really engage in damage control at his finest. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot to do with what's been going on here. Now, specifically, of course, with the Acolyte already serving as one of the biggest disasters ever for Disney, this could very well be 2025's worst. With all divisions of the Walt Disney Company going through endless challenges and failures, one major development now has more to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger heading into damage control over the current status of Snow White 2025, starring Rachel Zegler, where he delivered the following. As CEO, it is my responsibility here at the Walt Disney Company to set the record straight with our upcoming live-action remake of Snow White. I cannot stress this enough that the changes applied to our remake of Snow White for its story and focusing on our usage of diversity, equity, and inclusion on a scale that we have never done before in a Disney live-action film does not fall into any kind of agenda or message from us at the Walt Disney Company, nor do we engage in any kind of a culture war, especially with our upcoming remakes based on the animated classics. We find it to be very irresponsible and offensive coming from our core customer base that grew up with the iconic Snow White 1937 film to remain opposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in our new upcoming films still slated for next year. What we don't tolerate are those that are willing to alter their perception of our supporters and what we stand for here at Disney when it involves a retelling of the iconic tale and who stars in it. What I can confirm is that we are taking our valued time on this project to pave our way through any minor speed bumps in the process, as we, of course, begin to focus on a series of reshoots for what we view as our most valued live-action retelling of an animated feature that will break away from the source material to provide our loyal followers something new to engage in once we deliver this to theaters. What we find offensive in nature are those that remain opposed to DEI and labeling that as any kind of an agenda, especially with our upcoming Snow White feature that takes this very seriously. Our usage of DEI allows us to reach a wider, more global audience, not just for our theatrical releases, but also for those that are releasing on our Disney Plus platform. So guys, let me just stop here before I move on about what Bob Iger is spewing yet again when it comes to the DEI agenda that they desperately will never admit to is an agenda. They will never say that. They will never say that DEI is an agenda or that it's a part of some kind of a culture war, when in reality, let's just face the facts, it is. Now, we all know about that Disney video that really exposed everything over at Disney. Really has been going on pretty much to the point where now you got Bob, the board, and all the Disney executives in a phase of panic. They don't know what to do anymore at this point because everyone is beginning to wake up. I think that 2023 was a very telling year because you had a lot of people out there like Elon Musk, South Park Studios, The Daily Wire, and among others that have a lot of high status calling out Disney for what they really are and all the shenanigans that they're pulling and have been pulling, by the way, for multiple years now. Now, we all know that Snow White is going to be a disaster. This thing is going through so many reshoots, so many alterations and revisions, that's costing them tens of millions of dollars just to fix this thing. That's going to end up being pretty much, dismantled and really breaking away from the original 1937 film to begin with. Now, we already know that Rachel Zegler did enough damage back in 2022 when she talked about how she was going against the 1937 narrative of how Snow White is not going to be reliant on a prince or anything like that, and how she thought the prince was a stalker. All these different things shied away millions of families from having any kind of an interest in Snow White 2025. It's gotten to the point where the whole ending of this live-action remake is getting redone, and that's going to cost them a lot of, money as well. And that just goes to show you that Bob Iger truly loves to destroy any kind of property that they own and that they actually are engaged in with right now. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot to do with Bob Iger yet again. He goes on to talk about this further. To be quite frank, he says, I don't think our customer base truly understands what the term agenda really even means. If you mean that it's because we are embracing DEI and creating more opportunities for different genders and those that come from different ethnicities and backgrounds, then no, I don't see that as an agenda at all. We value our upcoming Snow White feature, and we are taking much needed time on this project to make it right for the fans and for new audiences that will adapt this story to the modern world. Whatever bad press you have heard about our newest addition to the live-action remakes, such as Snow White, we ask everyone to wait and see and witness for the product to see yourself and to let it speak for itself once we deliver this new tale for such an iconic character next year. If you guys want my own opinion on this, I don't see this releasing in March of 2025. They most certainly are going to delay this thing until the summer. Heck, maybe even later than that. We all know it's gonna happen eventually because, well, at the end of the day, we know that Snow White was supposed to come out this year in March, didn't end up happening. Then it was supposed to release in the later half of 2024, then that got, of course, pushed to 2025. So that just goes to show you that Disney is very much, erratic when it comes to their overall thought process on Snow White and where it's going to actually release. The overall timeline is so dismantled, they don't know what to do anymore because they know it's a disaster and we all know it too. For several reasons, and I don't have to repeat those reasons again, but when we look at Rachel Zegler, when we look at the cast members attached to this thing, especially the writer, Greta Gerwig, alright? This is someone that is very extreme with the Disney agenda, who wants to take it to a whole new level, who really wanted to make this story basically all about shaming the quote-unquote patriarchy and males, so to speak. She even went on a whole rant a couple of months ago about the toxic male demographic that many actresses do as well, like She-Hulk actress Tatiana Maslany and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, just to name a few. But overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.